My name is Katie Paris. I am the founder of Red Wine and Blue. Whether this is your umpteenth Red Wine and Blue event or you're here for the very first time, all of you are welcome. We just love having you all here, and I hope that you feel that welcomeness that we want you to feel here tonight. So here we are. It's 2023. We all came together with such intensity in 2022 and had a huge impact. But here we are again. Maybe some of us hoped for a little R&R in these odd years, but instead what we're seeing is enormous threats to our rights, to our freedoms, to public education, maybe even more than we anticipated. And so the reality is we can't take an off year, even though it is an odd year. And that can be hard, right? But that's why it's important that there's so many of us. That's why it's important that we have each other's back, because it's impossible to go at 100 miles per hour all the time. But we all can be forceful and fierce and with so much strength if we all are there having each other's back moment to moment, day to day, year in and year out. And this is a day where we need to keep showing up. So here's the deal. Republicans know that they cannot win in 2024 and continue to chip away at our democracy if they do not have suburban women voters. Red Wine and Blue is a community of diverse suburban women working together to defeat extremism, one friend at a time. That is a powerful proposition. And look no further than this very Zoom call. Thousands of people gathered on a Monday night. Are you kidding me? You're all here. That is a very scary thing for the other side. So Red Wine and Blue is getting serious, more serious than ever, in fact, as we head in not only to the 2023 elections, but with clear eyes about what this means for 2024. So we're bringing in Heather Cox Richardson to inspire us, inform us, make sure that we are ready for this fight. And there's also just one more thing. I want to introduce you all to someone who is now in the leadership at Red, White, and Blue, right along my side, day in and day out. I never thought Red, White, and Blue was going to be like this big of a deal where we'd have a chief operating officer. Her name is LaFonda Cousin. Come here. This is LaFonda, and everyone say hello. Everyone say hello in the chat. This is LaFonda. Some call her Fonda. LaFonda is a suburban mom from the Dallas, Texas area. And we're the exact same age. So you can imagine just this Gen X powerhouse coming up to you. Do you want to say hey?
Hello. Thank you for welcoming me. I see the chat just going crazy. That's exciting. I am excited to be here, have been excited to be here working with these incredible women and getting to see all the work that you guys are doing all over the country. So I just want to say thank you. And I like to stay in the background, which is why I do operations. So I'm going to let
Which is why I didn't tell her I was doing this. I didn't tell her I was doing this until like 5 minutes ago. I was like, you've been here for months now. More people want to know you. Come on out. So anyway,
thank you guys.
Thank you. All right. So with that, before I bring on Heather, I've got to tell you that it would not be a Red, Wine, and Blue event if we were not only talking about what we're up against, but offering you very concrete steps to make a difference in the most effective way possible. So Drew, please bring up that slide, the program that we are going to be offering tonight. This is our Rally Your Squad program. If you are serious about helping save our democracy, about protecting reproductive rights, about protecting our kids and public education, and you know that we have to stand up to these attacks, I'm going to ask you to text 59868 now. This is going to bring you to our Rally Your Squad website, and for you to be able to sign up to participate, to be someone who is reaching out to your friends and your family. This program with Red, Wine, and Blue has been shown to increase voter turnout by between 8.5% and 10.5%. Those numbers are unheard of. And it's because of the power of your networks. It's you. It's not us. It's all of us. It's all of us together. So please text 59868. Folks are also probably putting the link in the chat that you can follow to go there directly. You are going to be walked through this later on by the fan favorites, the Julies. I promise they're going to be on here to walk you through the whole thing. But get ready. Be ready to fully engage and show up at these events. You all are such an incredible community that when we have big numbers like this of all of you participating tonight, we see hundreds become volunteers in these programs. And you know what that means? More votes. And you know what that means? Protecting our rights and protecting our democracy. Okay, so it is time to bring on the women of the hour. Heather Cox Richardson, can you join us, please?
I'm so happy to be here. I am a huge fan of Red Wine and Blue and have been since the beginning. And I love two things. First of all, I love that you give really concrete information about how to affect democracy. But I think even more than that, which is so key, I love the community. I love the recognition that this is what this country is all about, is just friends helping each other out to create a government that represents us, which doesn't sound like you need a doctorate in political science to come up with. And I don't understand why that's such a hard concept, but here we're putting it into reality.
Yes, we are. And you saw it early with us, Heather. I mean, for those who don't know, Heather and I first connected through DMs on Facebook. Like literally just two women reaching out, fearing for our democracy and knowing that women know how to get shit done. And she responded like within the hour. So Heather, thank you for seeing us truly from the beginning.
Isn't it funny how far we've gone, how far we've come?
Yeah,
it is incredible. We could never have imagined all those years ago where we would end up being.
That's right. Okay, so Heather, let's get to the topic of the night that we have had so many people say, thank you for talking about this. We need to address this. I want to be better informed so that I can talk about this with the people that I know. You know, people are used to voting and tuning in presidential elections. No doubt people are going to be paying attention in 2024, but we are just 7 weeks away from the 2023 election. And I think that there's almost an inclination, maybe it's because like in the national news coverage, this isn't being covered day in and day out, like some of the issues in Congress or with what's going on in the 2024 presidential race. Can you speak in broad brushstrokes about what is at stake in 2023 and why it actually does matter so much for 2024?
It matters hugely because for a few reasons. First of all, it matters very organically in terms of the election results from 2023 are going to determine the policies that go forward after 2023 and those people take office. So in a very organic way, it really matters. But even more than that, no, not even more than that. In addition to that, the reason these elections matter so much is because they're going to send a signal to the parties about the direction that the future of the country should take. And that really matters. It matters not only in terms of who gets nominated for offices, it matters in terms of, sort of the policies that the platforms that people put together going forward. And it matters for the narrative about what this country is. And that's the place I think that in many ways we're the strongest. And it would be really nice to make sure we have a really resounding story about 2023 going into 2024.
Heather, I want to talk about some very specific inflection points, and I think we've already had one of them this year. There was the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race, and we ended up having for the pro-reproductive freedom candidate ended up winning by, I think it was 10 points, maybe 10 or 11.
11.
Okay. Talk about the significance of what that race is, because some people honestly, some people might say, what? States have Supreme Courts? Like, I thought we just had US. There's not a lot of awareness actually about what is going on sometimes at the state level. So what made that such a big deal? What did it mean for our democracy?
Okay, so Wisconsin is an important state and a really interesting state because it is a state that if there's a state, think about it, a statewide office like a senatorship or a governor, the Democrats win. But in the House of the House of Representatives in Wisconsin have been the districts have been so gerrymandered, that is a Republican-dominated legislature carved up those districts so surgically that the Republicans have virtually a 2/3 majority, not quite, but almost a 2/3 majority in the state legislature. And that also means that the way people are elected to Congress are affected by that district carving up. So what that has meant is that those extreme Republicans have been able to dictate a lot of what happens in the state of Wisconsin. So for example, when the voters elected a Democrat recently, the state legislature stripped that governor of a lot of power. So the reason that the election of Janet Protase, which was so important, was first of all to protect reproductive rights, because she made it very clear she was not going to look the other way as the extremists in the state legislature forced through a number of draconian laws. At the same time, that her election to the state Supreme Court was going to be a referendum on whether or not the state wanted to continue to have these extraordinarily gerrymandered maps. And this is what she's now on the hot seat for. The Republicans are trying to impeach her even before she's heard a case, even before she's done anything, because she said, listen, these maps are unfair. Now that's not news to anybody. Those maps are so unfair. They're literally the example that a number of political scientists use for showing how extreme gerrymandered maps can really affect representation in a state. So it's not like she's making a political point here so much as recognizing reality. If in fact the challenges to those gerrymandered districts or those gerrymandered district maps go in front of the Supreme Court now, thanks to her seat on it, which switched the makeup of that seat from being a right wing to being just a liberal, split court. If that happens, and if that she is on the court when they look at those maps, she will, in fact, is expected to make Wisconsin draw new, fairer maps. Now, the Republicans won't lose. It's still, considering the way that the demographics are balanced in Wisconsin, the Republicans will always have a bit of a leg up, but they won't have this bizarre world where even when the Democrats win the popular vote, they have a small minority of the seats in the legislature. So it's a really interesting state because voters really clearly, by 11 points, and in Wisconsin, most votes are usually decided by a half a point to a point. By 11 points, they said, we want to fix the stupid maps and we want control of reproductive rights. And this extreme group of Republicans is saying essentially that we don't care what the voters want. We don't care that you've done that. We're going to move her off stage by impeaching her, at which point she can't hear cases. And we're going to take back the state to make it be controlled by our minority party, despite the fact that this is what the voters want. So what's happening in Wisconsin is kind of a microcosm for this struggle between what the voters want, reproductive rights, and the system, which should be fair and is not, and whether or not voters are going to be able to correct that.
So that was a resounding message, and it was sent in May of this year. So now coming up in 7 weeks, we have the November elections. In Ohio, it's the only state in the whole country that has reproductive freedom as a ballot initiative to be put into the state constitution as a constitutional amendment. Only state in 2023 that has that on the ballot. We also have Virginia, which, my goodness, Virginia has elections every doggone year, but they will be the Virginia state legislative elections are happening along with school board elections. There's school board also in Ohio, also in Pennsylvania and other states. What do you see as the significance of these 2023 elections? Looking at that'll be November 7th, going right in to 2024. How should we be thinking about how much those matter?
So they matter a lot, but let me just say right off the bat, what gets me about all of this, the Wisconsin thing, was Ohio, where the Republicans tried to change the rules so that the people couldn't amend the Constitution the way they had for ages, the way that they tried to change the wording that appeared on the ballot rather than actually putting the constitutional amendment on. I don't like it when people don't play fair. I don't like it when people cheat. Like, by all means, bring your best game and we'll go and we'll have a real competition to see what people really want. But don't lie, don't cheat, don't try and change the rules so that you always get to win. It just disgusts me. So overall, there is just sort of that basic, a democracy, you're supposed to play fair. You're supposed to play hard, but you're supposed to play fair. And these people are just cheating. And that just profoundly disgusts me, aside from anything else. But the reason 2023 speaks to all this is that the American people don't like it either.
Yeah.
But members of parties that are trying to cheat, essentially, need to hear that. They need to be resoundingly rejected so that they recognize that this is not acceptable behavior. And for people who haven't been involved in politics before, sure, politicians have always spun stuff and they've always tried to get advantages, but they've always played within the rules. Or if they haven't played within the rules, they got called out in a really big way, like Nixon for Watergate. This business now where, the game is no longer trying to attract voters, it's trying to cut all the other side's voters out so you can cheat to win. This is all new, and we really need to make it clear that this is not acceptable in a democracy.
You have already felt like the stakes are high, but when it does come to basic democratic norms, what is acceptable and what isn't. It seems like in Wisconsin, in the Ohio special election just this past August, where this attempt, as you described, to make it harder to amend the Constitution was rejected by voters, that was by 14 points. In each of those cases, the disgust that you are expressing absolutely aligns with the majority of voters. And if we can consistently show that once again in these state races in November 2023, that's a position I feel good about democracy going into 2024 again. It feels much more precarious if we, barely slide through, if we lose some of these key races. So it certainly inspires me to, who else out there is feeling like the stakes are really high in 2023? You can give me a yes. You can give me a hell yes. Whatever feels right to you, but express it. I need to know you all are with me out there in the chat. Okay. One last question before we get to our next segment, and then there's going to be much more with Heather. Oh, I love this. Hell yes, absolutely. I'm ready. I love you people. I just love all of you people. Can we just address?
We didn't even talk about what the stakes are. This was just democracy. What's on the what the stakes are here is reproductive rights, which is foundational to being able to have determination over your own life. I mean, it's just what more can you say?
And another pillar of democracy, Heather, right, is our public education system, and that it, being, I know that there's a history of it coming under attack in the past, but, we're seeing harassment, threats of violence, at these school board meetings. And so many of the women here on this call are saying, we're not going to stand for that, not for our kids. But I think it's important we recognize what a threat that actually is to democracy too.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So much more to cover, but right now, because we cannot do a red, white, and blue event if we are not giving you all very specific things to do. We have got to stand up for reproductive freedom. We have got to stand up for public schools. We've got to stand up for our democracy. So that's our thing here. And so I'm bringing on the Julies. In fact, I'm with Julie, so she's going to take my seat. I'm going to scoot over right here.
Hi. Okay.
Hi.
All right. Well, I'm Julie Womack. I'm the head of organizing for Red, Wine, and Blue. And Julie, go ahead.
And I'm Julie Collins. I'm the national organizer for Red, Wine, and Blue. And, just like we have been learning tonight, what happens in 2023 will really impact and be a make or break moment for 2024. So we absolutely cannot stop. We cannot take our foot off the gas. We need to go all in to win these local and state elections. So my question is, are you all ready to be a part of it? Say yes in the chat again. If you're one of our states where we have staff, Ohio, Michigan, Virginia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, it's time to join our Rally Your Squad team. If you're outside those states, check out the chat here for links to become part of our new network, Trouble Nation. Plus, watch for other opportunities to participate in phone banks and postcards to your friends. Now let's talk about Rally Your Squad.
Next slide, please, Drew. Okay, so you guys, we have got some goals here that we need to reach. So these elections that are coming up are so important. So in Ohio, we have reproductive rights on the ballot. And in fact, really every state, right? Because who is elected to your legislature, control of the legislature in Virginia is up. Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, the courts have become the last line of defense against democracy and obviously protecting reproductive rights. School boards across the country. Who sits on your school board is so important. I speak from experience. The city next to me elected an extremist, and it has just caused chaos there. We do not want that happening in our school boards. So we need to make sure that we are turning out the voters and making sure we're getting the right people elected. So we all need to do our part to protect on these issues, to stand up for what is right. We have goals. We have been in these communities. We know who we need to reach, but we need your guys' help to do it.
Next slide, please. So each one of us can be the difference maker in November. Local and state races are often won by a handful of votes. So, what does that mean? It means that each and every person you turn out can actually be the difference between a win and a loss. You can help flip seats or be the deciding factor in who wins and who loses. Every friend or family member you turn out to the polls matters. These types of elections have lower voter turnout because people largely don't know that they're happening and they don't know who the candidates are or what they stand for. However, you guys can change that. Lots of people choose to stay because they lack information. You can be the source of information you need and turn out people who might not have otherwise voted.
Next slide, please. Okay, guys, what we're doing is we have a plan, and it is called You're All Going to Work Together to Turn Your Family and Friends Out to Vote. This is called relational organizing, which sounds super fancy, but it is not. It is the simple concept that you talking to friends and family is way more effective than strangers talking to strangers. And that makes perfect sense, right? Because your friends and family trust you. They will listen to you a lot more than a stranger who knocks on their door. So we need you to all be part of this team, and we're going to be doing this together. And data also shows that relational organizing is the most effective thing you can do. Next slide for Julie.
Red, white, and blue members are really good at friend-to-friend organizing. Presidential campaigns spend millions and millions of dollars trying to turn out voter turnout by just 1%. And why? Because that can actually win an election. Groups can show you that groups that show that impact celebrate because they say that's really amazing news. But let us show you what you all did last cycle with relational organizing. Next slide, please.
Okay, remember how Julie just said 1% is amazing? All right, check this out. This is what you all did. So we had an impact. We turned out at a rate of 9.6% higher for the voters that we contacted. So your friends and your family, you guys increased voter turnout by 9.6%. And for those of you out there who are like, oh, all of my friends think like me and they all vote, no, they don't. So even people who volunteered with us, we saw an over almost 14% higher turnout rate among those people. So it is important you talk to every single person in your circles. And then the thing I love is that you guys cut across partisan lines. So over 28% of the people that you contacted were unaffiliated or even Republican voters. These are people that will never be reached by candidates and campaigns because they don't think that they're on their side. You know your friends, they listen to you, you can see the impact that you had. This is why this work is so important and why you guys can actually make a huge difference.
So are you guys ready to do this again? Let's talk about who we need to reach. First, we need to reach our like-minded friends. Do not presume they know who the candidates are, even if they normally vote on our side. A surprising number don't vote in these elections. We also need to reach out to the moderates, the folks who are not dialed into politics. They might not even know these races are happening or what's at stake. And they definitely need help identifying the candidates who share their values. That's your role. Our data shows you made a huge impact with this group in the past, and you can do it again this year. Now, right-wingers, please don't waste your time. Next slide, please.
All right, you guys are ready to go. We need you on the team. So everybody get your phone out right now. Please tell me in the chat if you have your phone out and you're ready. You are going to text RALLY to 59868, or you can scan that QR code. And this is going to get you to be part of the team. We have an online hub where we are all going to be working together, sharing our successes. And you're going to get information like being able to see your friends' past voting records. So maybe they're an infrequent voter and you need to know that. We are going to give you actions to take so we can help you start these conversations, things you can share with your friends, and we're going to teach you how to have effective conversations. Okay, So right now, text rally to 59868. I see the chat blowing up. Done, done, done. Thank you. That is amazing. Okay, and now I'm going to let Julie go on and we'll show you what you're signing up and how to go about this process.
Right. So now that everybody has done that, I would like for you to click the state that you live in or where you have the most friends, and let's set up your account. So the first thing you're going to do is click Join Campaign, and then sign in if you have an account, or sign up to create one. And then enter the email that will be sent a magic link. There are no passwords. Makes it really easy.
And then you're going to set up your profile, just like you do for every other online thing you belong to. So name, where you live, and you are going to then match yourself to the voter file. Okay. And the good thing is, if you look and you're going to enter this information, you're going to get a list of people who match your contact information in the voter file. If you don't see yourself, that's fine. You can just click none of these. But if you don't see yourself, please go check your voter registration, because there's been a lot of purging going on. Next slide.
So next, we're going to start adding the people that you're going to contact. Now, we are not asking for their phone or email because we are not contacting them. That defeats the entire point of relational organizing. But we do need to match them to the voter file so we know who is being contacted and who we still need to reach. So start with your bestie, your spouse, or an adult child. Put in their legal name, the city, and the age range, and then match them to the voter file. Now, if there's no match, click none of these. And then you need to answer the key question, just where you think they might be on the likelihood of voting, the volunteer level, or do they need persuasion? And then we can create actions to target them based upon how you rank them on this scale. Next slide, please.
Okay, so you guys are in there, you're registered, you've got your friends, you started to put it in there, and then you can go under the task tab and we have actions you can take. We are going to help you have these conversations. So you're going to have information you can share with your friends. And then the cool thing is that once you do that, you come back and you were like, I did it. You get confetti. So that's always really fun. But you can keep coming back. We will keep adding new actions and things you can do to continue that conversation up until election day. Next slide, Drew.
And you can also track your individual progress. It's always fun. There's confetti involved, which is always fun. And you'll see our collective actions of the entire team and how many people are reaching across the state and how close we're getting to reaching our goal. Next slide, please.
Okay, I know you guys started with your bestie or your spouse or somebody tonight, but now you need to think big. Okay, who can I talk to about this election? We are challenging you to do at least 12 people. You can do more. We would love to do more, because the more we do, the bigger the impact. But here's some people you can think through. You know, friends, family, who can I talk to? Who are the last 10 people I called or texted? Who comments and likes on my social media posts? If you guys post anything political and somebody comments on it, put them on your list. You should be talking to them. Who would you invite to a special birthday party or a wedding? These are all people that could be part of your team, of the group that you're going to reach out to on Rally Your Squad. You know, keep thinking it through, keep adding those people as the evening goes on. We cannot wait to see the list when this is over. Come on, guys, there's 2,000 plus people here. We can reach so many people together. Next slide, Drew.
So now we just want to welcome you to the team. We are so very, very glad you're here, and we need you. Help us grow this team. Invite your friends to do the same thing that you've done tonight. Reach out to your state teams if you need help. Look for staff to drop emails and links in the chat.
Thank you guys so much. If you haven't done it yet, text rally to 59868. There it is on the slide for you. Katie and I are going to play musical chairs again, so just give me 1 second.
The other day, someone was telling me how they use their like smart watch, like they have an Apple Watch, and like what they love about it so much. LaFonda, was it you talking about how you do it because it tells you like how many steps and you love the rings? I don't have one. There's something about rings. I'm like that with Rally. I like to go on there and put 10 more friends whenever I can be, you know, whenever I think of like a new network or I've like met some new friends at a dinner or a meeting or whatever, I go and put, and you know, maybe there's not a ring, but it's even better. There's confetti. It is better than the rings. Okay. So, but think about it like that, you know, like compete with yourself. get together with other women in your friend group, do this together. And I just love that you can not only track your own progress, but collectively as a team. Look at the power of this. This is so incredible how many of you are here tonight and active. There are 2,306 comments in our chat so far. So just go out, like that many friends collectively. And we're really going to be cooking. Okay, so we wanted to ask Jen and Penny to come and join us, Heather, because as we do this work and we think about making our voter contacts, meeting our goals, it's so important that we remember what's going on the ground and what the real consequences are for this work. And so we wanted to ask Penny and Jen to keep us just like grounded in what is actually going on the ground, and to just tell us, Jen, can we start with you? Ultimately what this comes down to, the point of adding your contacts into Rally, this is not an academic exercise. It makes a huge difference. Every single vote matters. Can you share just your latest amazing story of seeing this on the ground in Ohio?
Yeah, it's been a really inspiring year here in Ohio, between all the signatures we collected early in the spring to get our petition on the ballot, turning in over 700,000 signatures with the coalition, and then riding that momentum into that August 8th special election that you and Heather were talking about earlier. And, this was an election where our politicians really did try to cheat. They wanted to change the rules about how constitutional amendments get voted on here in Ohio. And they thought that people weren't going to notice because it was a special election in August and we had almost 40% voter turnout. We used Rally in preparation for that election. And I know that our Red, White, and Blue members really helped make a difference there. And we heard one great story from a troublemaker here in Clark County. And for those of you who aren't from Ohio or don't know all your counties in Ohio, Clark County is about an hour west of Columbus, and it's pretty red. And we had a troublemaker named Megan who had to be in Pennsylvania the day before the election. There was a death in her family. And she actually recorded a quick video for us that we shared on social media. And she talked about how, it was really hard to leave her family and drive home from Pennsylvania back to Ohio so that she could get there in time to vote on Tuesday, but she knew it was the right thing to do. And one of the cool things is that I mentioned Clark County is very red. So in 2020, 60% of voters voted for Trump in that county. And on that Tuesday, August 8th, Clark County defeated the August issue by one vote, just one vote. So really every vote mattered. And I know a lot of us, like, your initial reaction might be, wow, Megan, you were that one vote. Like, thank you for driving home from Pennsylvania to go vote on August 8th. And I love what Megan said to us. She said, I wasn't the one vote. We all were. And to me, that's such a powerful message. So we all were the one vote. She was the one vote, but so was her neighbor that she talked to about the importance of this August election. So was her bestie that she had been texting, reminding them about early voting hours. Every single one of us, in any election, we are the one vote that can make a big difference. And I think that's where the power of friend-to-friend organizing, talking to your friends about issues that matter, reminding them, even if you think this is someone who always votes, reminding them that the deadline is coming to register for the upcoming election, or early voting hours start October 11th here in Ohio for anyone in Ohio. All of those conversations that we're having with our friends really do make a difference.
Heather, I bet there's just so many stories throughout history where elections have come down, just to a handful of votes, or even just one vote. And it feels like we can just like feel and touch our democracy when it happens.
At the end of the day, it's what it's all about, is recognizing that this country belongs to us and stepping up and taking our voice back and taking our power back. I love these stories.
Penny, tell us what's going on in Virginia and what is keeping you inspired to rally so many women to put it all on the line with their network of, friends and family in those elections down there on the ground in VA.
Sure. I'm going to continue the theme of every vote matters. In Virginia in 2017, in the House race, it was a tie. And so we had to flip a coin. And the Republican won. And that win gave them majority and control of the House. So every single vote actually does matter. And one of the things that I am really excited about is that Red, Wine, and Blue came to Virginia in such a critical time for Virginia, because as you mentioned earlier, Katie, we have 40 Senate seats up for the election, 100 House seats, and of course, school board races and et cetera. But the only thing that has been keeping Virginia from losing their reproductive rights over this past year, because we have a Republican governor, the House is majority Republican, is that blue wall in the Senate. So it is really critical that we get out and do what we need to do. And when I say that Red, Wine, and Blue came to Virginia, we didn't just come to Virginia, we came to Virginia strong. We've hired me as the program director. We've hired a deputy director. We've hired 6 get out to vote organizers, and they are working. And I want to brag on just one today. I'm going to give the example of one, but they all are out here working. And her name is Kelsey Lawrence. Before we hired her, she was already in a group working with a group called Save Samuels, which is a library that the Board of Supervisors is trying to shut down in Front Royal. Oh, and I have seen the growth over the last couple of weeks, and you should have seen her this weekend. She was on that megaphone and she was talking and she was doing so much. She not only surprised her husband, but she surprised herself. And that's one thing about Red, Wine, and Blue. We provide those tools and community that helps women find their voices. And when women find their voices and rally their squad, we cannot be stopped.
Penny Blue is certainly unstoppable. You inspire me every time you speak. Thank you both to Penny and Jen sharing these stories from on the ground. I know, Heather, you and I both share with loving hearing these stories so much of women who were not activated before, have now just become a total force in their communities, finding their voice in ways that they never imagined. And I just have to ask you, September 15th marked 4 years since you have been doing your newsletter that originally didn't even have a name, and
it was never intended to be a newsletter.
Right.
It was
Right. It was a Facebook post, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, first of all, everyone in the chat, let's tell Heather what it's meant to us. Let's say thank you.
Oh,
thank you. And
but I'm really just the
what
coffee pot that everybody else gathers around. It's all about community.
Yeah. But I mean, when I first talked to you, it didn't seem like this was in the cards, keeping this going and go, look at this chat. We love you.
Yeah, you guys are great. You guys are great.
But what has this experience meant to you, Heather? Just, personally, I know you so beautifully make it about us, but we want to know about you too.
Well, it is about us, though. I mean, what is really cool about it, I mean, for me as a historian, I love keeping a record of the world. I mean, this is literally, I cannot think of anything more spectacular for a historian than getting to keep a record of what's happening in this country. I'm an American historian, so this is the country I care about. So professionally, that's actually really cool. But what I have truly loved is that when I started, remember, we were all so confused in 2000, after Trump was elected and everything kind of went in a tornado mode and we were so confused all the time. And I think I sort of had faith that there was going to be an end somehow, but I couldn't really see it yet. And if you think back to 4 years ago, before I started writing, the idea of pulling together 5,000 people on a phone call about organizing voting, or the idea that millions of people would read a newsletter about history and politics, or that we would have, all these amazing voices, your podcast, I just could go down this list of all these people organizing that, as I said earlier, I don't think the establishment knows we're out here. I really don't. And it makes me feel, honestly, this sounds so stupid, I guess, but it makes me feel like the days of Abraham Lincoln, when the elite Southern enslavers had taken over the government, and they were really articulating a vision of the United States that was run by a few rich guys. And they were planning not only to keep African Americans enslaved, but they weren't so keen on indigenous Americans whose land they wanted, and they didn't have any use for Mexican Americans. And, we could go on down the list. And women, they were quite clear, were either for sex or for money. And it looked like they'd sewn everything up. And all of a sudden, when they pushed just a little bit too far and tried to spread enslavement into the northern states, people woke up. Even, white men were the only ones who could vote. And they woke up and they were like, this isn't what we want. And within a decade, they had completely reorganized what the United States was supposed to be about. And I look at that moment, and all of us who are kind of wandering around, either not paying attention and recognizing what was going on, or being lost, or feeling like we were under attack and we didn't know what we could do next, and looking at where we are now. And I tell you, I'd bet on us now over the people who were taking over democracy before, just 4 years ago. And that's really exciting to be part of. And first of all, it's exciting to watch it happen, but to be part of it, I mean, how much better a position could we be in as human beings than helping the world recognize the importance of human self-determination? It's kind of epic, really.
It does feel epic, doesn't it?
does.
Why do you think, in light of that, this epic thing that we're all a part of, there is a lack of recognition by the establishment of the grassroots and women in particular? And is that a pattern that we've seen throughout history? Is sort of the subversive element maybe part of our power?
Well, I think there's a lot of things going on now. I think one of them is new technologies that are hard to monitor. So you see, for example, talking about how the President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are presented in the media. Well, I would love to see a study of the numbers that are watching that media versus other forms of media like this, for example, which I don't think, it's very hard to get your hands around that. And what that looks like, all this looks like to me very much, is the rise of what became the populists in the late 19th century. And I love this because what happened in the 1880s was that the American political system had really been taken over by people that were known now as the robber barons. And they were quite clear that they were running the United States government for the benefit of corporations. Like, quite literally, the senators would introduce themselves as, hi, I'm, John Smith. I'm there was a John Smith, but I'm a John Smith, and I'm the senator for the Sugar Trust. And the sense that the United States had lost its democracy and was simply forming an oligarchy was incredibly widespread. And what happened, this is in the 1880s, and what happened was, very quietly, ordinary Americans, primarily in the Western Plains, but also in the South, started to have picnics, and they started to organize, and they started to get together with other people who were not being served by that new economy and by that politics. And they didn't try and indoctrinate people. They just said, hey, do you understand what a tariff is? Or are you having trouble getting your crops to market? Or don't you feel like rich people ought to pay some taxes? Or why does the financial system benefit them and not us? And they started to really inform people. And as they informed people, people started to recognize that the democracy that they had signed up for ought to have more in it for them. And so what happened was that in the election of 1888, this is one of those elections where the president does not win the popular vote. He gets put in by the Electoral College, and there was some hanky-panky going on there in that particular election. And he really goes hard right. He really goes for putting the government in the hands of the very wealthy. And they try at the end, right before the midterm elections of 1890, to try and sort of throw a sop to ordinary people and say, well, here's what we're going to do for you people. And they think it's going to be okay because they don't know all those people who've been organizing. And in the midterm elections of 1890, the Republicans expected they were going to win handily. And in fact, voters took the control of the House of Representatives away from them by a vote, by a percentage of 2-1. They lost control of the House by a ratio of 2-1, and they lost control of the Senate. And they literally did not see it coming. So there's this wonderful letter that this lady writes, having visited President Benjamin Harrison in the White House after he's lost the election. And he's wandering around the garden going, I just don't know what happened. I just don't know what happened. all I know is it wasn't my fault, which is just so perfect. But what matters about that is not only that they organized as the alliance is what it was, but what they wanted and what they demanded got absorbed by both the Democratic and the Republican parties in the late 19th and early 20th century, so that within about 15 years, everything that they had asked for had actually been implemented. And I think that's such an important lesson for us now, because by making these demands, by making it clear that we vote according to these demands, we're probably not in the business of starting our own political party, but by God, people are going to be listening to what we say, and it's going to get absorbed by both major parties and other parties that might come up. And in the case of the populists, in 1890 is when the alliance first makes its voices heard. By 1912, which is 22 years later, both major political parties were running progressive candidates, and there was a third major party also running a progressive candidate. There were no right-wing candidates on the ballot. So, we've got a precedent, and that's what it feels like to me. People just don't see what's out here with the organizing that's happening outside the major places that they're used to looking.
Heather, I will say that something that's changed for me personally is that there's not a lot of places I can go these days without someone going, hey, wait, red, white, and blue, right? Red, white, and blue. And we didn't even exist a few years ago. So obviously that's been very fast. But there's also this common sense of, where did this come from? Did you ever expect it? And it's sort of, there's a sense of surprise. And everything you're saying is just making me feel like, hey, maybe let's just keep surprising them, that there's,
doesn't it feel like
that.
We talk all the time about how there are certain moments that really highlight certain people. So, for example, Bill Gates came out of a certain kind of milieu when computers were just rising. And some people are just in the right place at the right time. And it certainly feels to me like I just happened to be at the right place in the right time to start to articulate things that mattered to people. And, maybe you feel the same way, but it does feel like it's a societal change in a way that the rise of computers was, or, the rise of cinema at a certain time, or the rise of a certain kind of music at a certain time because of the conditions surrounding it.
Heather, we have some people asking, maybe based on the states that they live in, maybe there aren't huge consequential elections for them in 2023, maybe places where people are hearing more than they want to for Moms for Liberty, which I have to stop just a second and remind everyone here that you are the majority. Moms for Liberty boasts about, chapters here and chapters there. The membership of Red, White, and Blue is more than triple of Moms for Liberty. You are the majority, and you represent the values and views of the majority of Americans. And so hold your head high as you speak your views and you reach out to others in your community. Heather, you are the best because you give us that sense of hope. So if we have women in the chat, for example, tonight, from Florida, they say they're feeling, a sense of hopelessness. Can you give us, even in a place like Florida, a sense of hope? What are we supposed to hold on to?
Quite fundamentally, the reason I have hope is because of organizations like this, because of the people who are here, but fundamentally because, don't you think democracy and government really comes down to the way you think about human beings? I mean, we're basically pretty good people. And those of us who aren't are very much a minority. So at the end of the day, what gives me hope is that I trust human beings. I trust people. I trust women. I trust Americans ultimately to do the right thing. And I will say it's not fast always. But one of the things that always jumps out to me about history is heroes. And the thing about heroes to me is that everybody, when you think of heroes, you think of Superman, or you think of, Fannie Lou Hamer, or somebody who seems to be different than the rest of us somehow. And the truth is that I think heroes happen when people just do the right thing again and again and again. And that might just be putting food on the table, or going to your goddamn job yet another day when you don't think you can do it, or speaking up for your kid, or defending somebody in public, or deciding to run for office, or standing up and saying that what somebody is doing is wrong. And those little baby steps at the end of the day, create a much better world for all of us. And when you look at an organization like this, and you look at the kind of people that we are gathering into these larger communities, they're people who put their feet in front of them every day to do the right thing. And I just feel like we haven't gotten the oxygen yet in the past that people like us deserve. And we're starting to get it. So even in places like Florida or other places where one might feel discouraged, I think the larger picture is one in which most people really want to do the right thing. And maybe there's an awful lot of heroes among us that are just putting one foot in front of the other. And sooner or later, that's going to pay off.
I love someone in the chat saying Heather's heroes. I think we all want to be Heather's heroes here tonight.
You all are.
You know, even in Florida, it's so true. There are so many of us organizing everywhere. Last I heard, I think they were closing in on 800,000 signatures towards getting reproductive freedom on the ballot in 2024 in Florida. That's something that you can get involved in. You know, they need over 1 million to make sure that they qualify. Be a part of it. Be a part of it. The deadline for that is the end of this year. Every single place you look, women are leading these fights and organizing, and that is an invitation to all of us. What gives me hope is the number of people who show up here tonight and again at all of these events that we hold in person and on Zoom, just on a Monday night. It's just as our votes are an act of faith, our showing up in something like this is an act of faith in each other. And that's the only way that we do this, in community, defying, you know, the bet that our opposition is making on us, that we're just going to throw up our hands and be tired and worn out and go home. You all being here tonight is saying that's not going to happen again and again and again. Okay, there is another question I want to address. People are saying if Rally isn't available in your state, hundreds of you are getting on, but we have something for you no matter where you live. Red, Wine, and Blue recently launched, and I know links are being dropped, one of our most ambitious programs yet. It's called Trouble Nation, because we have a nation of troublemakers, and you are not alone anywhere. And so what this is a new program for people to form Red, Wine, and Blue groups, or to strengthen ones that you've already created in the last several years, where we can drive additional members to you, women who are seeking other people in their community to take action with, where we can support you with free tools for communication, for organizing, for taking action. And the best part of all, being in connection with each other. There's leadership and mentorship circles. And so if you are in a place where you need to find other people to connect with, we want to help you do that. And so we're so thrilled to have Trouble Nation, and it's still kind of in these early stages. We haven't even announced it publicly yet, but already there's the map is lighting up with all of your groups, and it's just so exciting to see, and a true manifestation of the energy that we've seen here tonight. Heather, I do want to say, I have to, before we go, I want to acknowledge your book coming out, because I also, with, you know, Democracy Awakening, it seems like the book and the timing of it coming out now has everything to do with what we're talking about tonight. Can you speak to that?
Yes, and that's exactly what the book is about, is first of all, how we got to where we are now, where here is, and crucially, how we get out. And I'm laughing as you say that, Katie, because the book, you know, I'm doing a ton of talks on the book, and I'm going to do one on my own Facebook page tomorrow night and then the next day as well. So there's plenty of places to hear about the book. But I'm laughing because, Katie, you're going to love it. You're just going to love it. Not everybody's going to love this book, but you're going to love it. So yeah, the book is coming out, and I'm excited about it. I'm doing a tour, doing the tour that goes on. There's a month really seriously and fast, but then I'm around the country for the rest of the year before this next election. And you asked me in the past what I'm going to do now that the book is done, and you know, aside from the letters. And the answer to that is I'm out there going to be talking about democracy all over the country between now and the 2024 election. And then, you know, when you all make your voices heard and take over the country, man, I am going to quit everything and eat M&Ms and knit and kayak. And you'll, you know, with luck in 10 years, you'll be like, who was that woman? You know, because if I do my job right, you won't get, nobody's going to need me anymore. So we'll start a movement to get Heather in her kayak with a whole lot of M&Ms.
All right. Well, that can be the name of your memoir. I would read that too. But I will
Kayaking with
try.
M&Ms.
Exactly. I will try to refrain from not texting you or emailing you too excitedly as I do get to read the book. I am so excited for it. And I know so many of us are here too tonight. And it is the perfect moment for it. We are all a part of democracy awakening. And isn't that amazing? Doesn't that feel good even in moments of despair? But that only happens through connection with each other.
Wait till you see the dedication.
Okay, I can't wait. All right. Well, Heather, we're so glad to see that you're going to be headed out all around the country. And I'm actually going to be seeing you, I know, in person in March in Ohio. And I know you'll be all over the country. So everybody look for opportunities to connect with Heather and look for opportunities to connect with Red, Wine, and Blue in your community too. And you all know we hold events where we have so many of you coming on many times a week. Check out the events page. But number one, most important thing and way to get connected in a real, tangible way to make a difference. And you are going to be hearing from other women in the Red, Wine, and Blue community as you do this, is to make sure that you are signed up onto our platform, Rally Your Squad. It's the most effective thing you can do, I promise. And it feels really good to be that person that can be counted on in your network as the person who has that good information that they know and they can rely on. And that is what makes a difference. As we heard from Jen and Penny, every single vote matters. So you could be that vote in your county, especially in a year like 2023, where people are not paying attention as much as we need them to. So you get to be the person who not only takes responsibility for your vote, but everyone you know too. So please join us in this. Thank you for being here tonight. Heather, the hours I get to spend with you are always some of my very favorite. Thank you for being who you are, for showing up for us and showing up for democracy so reliably again and again.
Well, back at you, Katie Paris, and to everybody who came tonight. Let's do this.
Let's do this. All right. Good night, everybody.